Hello everyone, welcome back to another YouTube video. Hope everyone is well and blessed. Thank you guys so much for hitting 100 subscribers on the YouTube channel, and also um, I've been gone for 3 weeks, so sorry about that. But recently, I've been working on this project and trying to learn how to use htmx and convex and Rust together. And so I built this little trivia coding guessing game website that I'm going to show you guys. And feel free to check out the GitHub. I have instructions for how to build the project, and you can also just understand the code better. I'll try to explain at a simple level how everything works. And yeah, so let's go ahead and get into it. And here is the website. It's terminal themed. You can see the flashing cursors. Um, one really thing that really bleh, one really cool thing that happened while learning how to use htmx and convex and stuff like that in Rust was I got the opportunity to use a library that I wrote for the convex ecosystem for Rust, and I found bugs in that, and that was really cool. And there's like 6 bugs, and there was like only one or two things that kind of just didn't really work how I expected and are a simple fix. And then most of the other things are sort of like developer experience bugs, right? Like they're only things that they don't stand out as wrong, but when you as a consumer of a library try to use an API, and I started seeing places that could be improved, like, oh, I should probably have the schema generator, like, oh, here's what convex type gen is, by the way, if you guys don't know. But yeah, it's like, oh, I should probably have, the ID of the table type passed with the generated table as well, so that the user doesn't have to type it themselves because every table has an ID, right? It's like that kind of stuff, which when I was coding the type generator, just didn't really think about. And this is part of the reason why like sometimes writing test doesn't help, because you can write tests that fit perfectly with how you design the system, but when a user uses something, they're not thinking from the designer's perspective. They're just trying to get their goal complete. So it's like if you code like you're just trying to get a goal complete, you might run into cases where you didn't prepare for this type of use case. So that was pretty cool. Hope all that ramble stuff made sense. But yeah, I used my own project here, so I'll link it as well. Give it a star. I use Actix Web for the Rust web server. Um, Terra, Django tool, ported to Rust, really good. Good documentation. HTMX. This is the little magic that prevents me from having to do like um, extra fetch calls and code JavaScript, which is sort of refreshing, because like I code JavaScript at work, and not having to use it to build websites feels kind of nice sometimes. So thank you, HTMX team. And then lastly, I am using Convex DB. So amazing database. I'll link some videos to Convex as well if you guys want to learn about it. But yeah, let's go ahead and get back into the quiz. So um, it's basically just random coding questions. I did use AI to generate some of the questions. The only one that I wrote myself was like the Rust trivia. Everything else was kind of just like, hey, ChatGPT, fill in these questions. Because in the code, I have something where like, if there's no questions for a quiz, then you can't do the quiz. So you just get redirected. And so I couldn't really test any like the scoring system because I only did one quiz. So, but yeah, we can hit the start button. And if we go into the network tab and we hit start, you can see that um, we make a request, a post request to slash start quiz. We get back this 302 found status code, and then that redirects us to this quiz with an ID. And this is the new HTML for the page. And it's really cool because like literally like every time we click a link or a button, the entire page gets re-rendered or like sent back down to the entire the entire DOM gets reset, right? But it's so fast because it's just like text. that it like you really can't tell. Like it looks like no page refresh, even though it's like new content on the DOM every single click. So that's pretty cool. I don't actually know the answer to that, but I'm gonna do a quiz that I do know how to pass, so I can show you guys the other features. So yeah, let's what's the benefit? Yep, one automatically freed. Mutt. Yep. Yay, 100. So this is the quiz complete screen, and this is pretty fun to code. See, there's some parts of this where like I don't update the data. It's kind of just blank. That was just partly because I kind of like I've been working on this project for you guys can see in the repo. I started this repo like a week ago, so it's been like a week and a half, and I've just been trying to finish it up so I can make this video, so I can fix my bugs in my other library, and then also like I have stuff at work, so there were a few places where I kind of just got lazy, like didn't add auth to this. This kind of just assumes that like if we go to the dashboard, you can see the scores updated now, right? And this quiz is complete. But this kind of just assumes that like there's only one player, right? Like if you actually hosted this code on a server, everybody would be playing with the same data. And I'll show you guys that code in a little bit. But yeah, that's kind of the basic mechanics of the you know, system. Um, the code is fairly simple, really. Here are the dependencies. You know, we got Actix, Convex, my library, DaddyNV, Serde, Terra, Chrono. Yep. Um, Convex is the only JavaScript dependency, and that's just used to set up its backend functions. We have the build file, which, oops, let me um, let me stop the server. For some reason, I was like my editor was lagging, and then I look over to my left on my other screen and see the CPU usage up to like 60% for some reason. Not sure why. But yeah, it went back down when I stopped the server. But yeah, this file is commented out right here. Mainly just because, like I said, I found a few bugs in my library and I didn't want the auto-generated code to activate because I had to modify the schema, which was annoying because every time I added new convex functions while developing, I had to copy my modified schema, generate the new schema to get the new types, and then copy the new type changes into my old schema and then repaste it. I did it like 3 times. That was such a pain. It made me not want to write the convex functions. Um, or just like not have types, you know, which defeats the whole purpose of my library. Uh, but yeah, so let's go into main, and we basically have the templates which are statically cached um, at compile time, which makes sense because they don't change. And then we have some app state, which just holds a connection to our convex client so that different API routes can access the shared connection without, you know, creating a connection every time something happens, right? So yeah, we do what I just said. We register all the routes. Why is this here? And then yeah, the index route, pretty simple. We basically get the Terra context, get the year, pass the year into the context, and we render the HTML. So if we go into templates and then we go to index, um, we can see that we have extends layout, and then we have a new code block, which is pretty cool, right? So that's kind of the cool thing about templating, which is you can just pass in data. So we render the index route, right? But we render the index route, but we're saying that we also want the layout, which means this content gets included in that route automatically. And honestly, like after using React for so long, this is pretty much like what React does, but just on the server, which is also cool. Like I never really made websites like this, learning web development. Like when I started, I did normal JavaScript, like full client side, right? And then I used React and Next.js, And that kind of makes you like forget that like, wait, this code is running on the client, because in server components you can kind of like call, even with convex almost, it kind of just makes you forget that like, oh, this is client side code, because you can just call a function and then pass the data down as props through like the server component, and it feels more magical. Whereas this is kind of like, you know, more verbose, but it's still pretty cool. And then we have the footer. So yeah, you can see like the main content is where this is sort of like the child. Like in React, you'd have something like, children. This is the same thing. Um, so yeah, let's go to another route. We are here, dashboard. We have this get quizzes function, right? So we grab all the quizzes, which is a vector of quiz table. Um, and so yeah, this is hmm. I was just thinking about that name, like quiz table. Maybe it should be like quiz document or quiz. I don't know. Naming things is hard, but that's basically like an auto-generated type from my library. Sorry. Sometimes when I'm like explaining code and videos live and I try to like one take these videos, I get like, like an aha moment. But yeah, we basically just grab all the current quizzes out of the database because there's only 5. So I didn't really, let me show you guys. I don't really have like, here's the function it's calling, list. I just collecting all. Usually this isn't recommended by convex. Like you should use a index, or maybe, do like dot take, right? And I'm not sure why my CPU is being used so much. But you would do a dot take 50, and just so you don't, scan the entire database, right? But yeah, so we get the quizzes and then we get the player score, which does another query to the database. You can see also that like a lot of times in the code, I'll just default to like not found and then go back somewhere, right? Just redirect. There's no real error messages or anything. I probably should have some kind of like thing in the layout that like, oh, if there was an error found, then like display this warning, like that can be something conditional in the HTML, but just trying to keep it simple and learn. And yeah, so you can see dynamic data. This whole like component right here is dynamic. Um, so all that data, current year, quizzes, player score, it's being passed into the dashboard context for this render. So that's kind of how that page works. One thing I don't know how to do is make like a global context, because it's kind of annoying to have to pass like current year into every single context and every function. But the reason I have to do that is because the dashboard extends the layout component, and the layout component has a footer component on it, or I guess like a footer section, which needs that data. So if I don't have that data from current year, then it's just going to be null, which is kind of annoying because I have to do that everywhere, which you can see. Uh, oh well, that's a GET request. That's a different. Um, that's like an endpoint, not really a page. But yeah, even right here, see current year. But yeah, we have the quiz page. Basically, gets the quizzes. Um, it tries to find the quiz like by the actual ID. Uh, and this is basically done using the path. So the start quiz function, like I said earlier, it redirects the user to the quiz ID after it finds a quiz you haven't completed, right? And if it doesn't find any, basically like you have all your quizzes complete, then you just get sent back to the dashboard. So that makes sense. Um, and yeah, we got some quiz data when the quiz is active. Whenever you submit a quiz, it makes a post request to this new endpoint. It grabs all the quizzes, finds them. We basically get the current quiz, some other data. This is to increment the player score, and then we send all that new data back to the new context. So when this request is made, like slash submit answer, it literally re-renders the entire page, but with this updated fresh data, which is pretty cool. Honestly, it is still a little different because I'm used to like things just like automatically updating, like in React, how you just set something in the state and then once you modify state or use effect, everything just kind of like updates, right? Whereas like this, you kind of have to like force the user to update because it's like server side, right? Which htmx helps with that, but like I said, I'm still learning htmx, so I wasn't too sure how to do like, you know, route invalidation or something like that. Or maybe that's an actix thing, I'm not sure. But yeah, we basically just render these templates depending on, you know, what the data is. And then reset quiz, pretty self-explanatory to be honest. We have a form, and then you can see right here that this is the function to get the convex quiz. Now, I like convex as a database, but one criticism, actually, this isn't even a criticism of convex. This is really just like Rust type system complaint. But compared to like JavaScript, this is like such a terrible database query. Like this would be so much simpler just being SQL. If I could write like string raw SQL, it would be like prettier than this. And the real problem is this return type. It's just what I hate. The function result, because of just how it's not even Convex's fault. It's just because of how like Rust works, and everything has to be so like declarative. And like JavaScript, you can kind of just wing it if you know the data. If you know like, okay, JSON is coming out, you know, I can just I can just say as unknown, and then as you know, whatever type you want, and you can kind of just deal with it, right? And kind of brush it under the rug. But like Rust wants to know at compile time what makes sense, right? So what you have to do is one, I had to lock this in a mutex, so you know it's thread safe. But I have the you know, I have my utility library right here to make the arguments for the function. Um, and then you grab the results, and they're a function result. And this function result from convex is basically an enum with a value or error, right? So we match on this result. You know, we return the message as an error if an error happens, right? As a string, so that I can like propagate it to the HTML if I wanted. Um, and then we have to check if the value that we get back is an array. Then we have to check if that value has the data we want. So we have to like iterate through it. And this can get annoying because a lot of apps, like, they send and receive all types of data. So it's just like to have to do this. It just kind of feels like you almost have to like write parsing logic every time. And every time your data is complex, you have to make sure that you can parse the data. So I have to like take the JSON value of the current value inside of this array of data and parse that to a value that convex understands, right? So it's got like assert from value, and then we're grabbing the table out of the JSON, and you know, we're putting it back into the results array, right? That's just kind of sucks. That's a random REST complaint, but like the JavaScript equivalent of this is literally just like you'll do like const results equals await, you know, you got use query, oh my god, query API dot something dot function, right? And then you'll literally like get back your results, and then you'll just be able to do like results dot map, and then do something with it. That's just like way simpler because it's all in like the native language. So that was just a random rant about, you know, using like convex is really great in TypeScript and JavaScript, but using convex outside of that, you just kind of have to deal with things like this where your data is two different types, and it's kind of a pain. uh, and JSON just works like really good in JavaScript. Like I feel like JSON in any language kind of sucks. So you know, it is what it is. But that was a longer rant than I expected. um, I could have like optimized this code better. Like a lot of like the quizzes are being called so many times, like on every request and stuff like that. I'm sure I could like cache or do something cool with the caching, where it's like unless I'm making a mutation, and if I'm just reading data, then I should just like have a cookie which caches the quizzes. And then when I do you know, like make some kind of post request, I can also just say invalidate cache, which will refetch the quizzes and then save them in the cache. Like that might be something I could do. And then on every GET request, check if the cookie exists. If it does, just reuse that data in the same request. Like I'm sure there's things I could do to make this code better, but you know, um, like I said, simple is oftentimes all you need. And yeah, we just get the player score. And I'll show you guys these helper functions that I've written from my library. It basically just not renders, uh, it generates the name of the convex function, and then its types you need, right? So complete quiz, right? And then we just have, where does it go? Complete quiz args. And the default arg is the function path, which is just a static string slice. And then we have this allows our struct to implement the B tree map for itself. And so this allows us to pass, if you see right here how I'm passing the client args like this. If you didn't do this, you basically would have to like create a new B tree map and store all the arguments, and the syntax is kind of ugly. So I just do that for you right here. It'll basically do this, and you can avoid having to manually map.insert every item inside your arguments, right? Um, and yeah, I think that's pretty much like most of the code. Like there's some template stuff, but that's just HTML, so I didn't really want to talk about that. And the video is already gone about 20 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and end it here, but I hope you guys did learn something and enjoyed listening to my rambling. I came back after 3 weeks and talked for 20 minutes, so I'm proud of myself. But I'll catch you guys in another video, and yeah, thanks. See you.